it's Frontier Opening Bell, our first edition for the week. Thank you for joining us on the show. This is Temple Ashajo. We've got on our program this morning Ali Segar of Ali Segar Associates, a professional firm based in Dubai, joining us from Dubai. Thank you for coming through this morning, Ali. Joma joins us from Veggies Capital Management. Thank you for making it down to the show. Boston Fire Executive Editor, right here with us on the show. We'll look at the markets. How did they close last week? On a weekly basis, these are the data. We've got Nigeria down 1.74% week to date. The RVM Stock Exchange was also down some 0.95%. The Egyptian Stock Exchange was positive on Thursday at 11,261.35. That's positive by 23 basis points. Nairobi Stock Exchange up some 25 basis points week to date. And you have the Johannesburg Stock Exchange on Friday, slipping by some 82 basis points. Let's now move on to the Eastern African headlines, where you've got the African Development Bank painting a picture of what Africa will look like this year for us. Tourism-based economy is expected to grow some 6.2% in 2021 from 11.5% negative decline that we've seen recorded in 2020. Oil exporting Africa is also expected to recover from a negative of 1.5% to grow this year at 3.1%. And of course, Kenya startups raised some $191 million in 2020, or 27.3% of total investments in the continent, that's Africa. Equity Group signing some $50 million facility with Africa Guarantee Funds today. And the World Bank okays $150 million Madagascar fresh grants for social safety net project. Rwanda's $48.94 million renewable energy fund targets of 445,000 plus homes in Africa. Wilson, let's come to you to do justice to all of these headlines. They're beautiful this morning and very positive for Africa.
Yes, quite a number of positive news. I'm sure Ali would like to speak to renewable energy, which is a major story for. You can see it coming down all the way down to sub-Saharan Africa, but I'm sure in the North Africa it's a whole lot more. They're doing a whole better than the rest of us, so I give it to them. You know, Nigeria is trying to do this Mambila Plateau project, which we've left for about 40, nearly 50 years. And now we're trying to get that done with the Germans, I guess, about the Siemens guys. We're trying to get our hands up. And we're just trying to build the first wind, whatever. We just need to get it all up. But let me just go straight to the AfDB story, because it goes all through all of us for Africa. For East Africa, I think I'll touch on the tourism side of it, which also flows to North Africa, by the way, between, I think, Morocco, Egypt, and the rest of them. For West Africa, it's about the Gambia, which is the king of tourism in West Africa. Then you talk about Ghana, Ivory Coast, then a very small patch of it in Nigeria. So tourism countries like Kenya, like the Seychelles Islands, Mauritius, the Zanzibar in Tanzania, and the rest of them. This is good news that we'll be able to get tourism, but let's hope that the forecast by AfDB will hold. But in terms of other stories for Kenya startup, look, we like this story coming through. Africa is making much more money in terms of startups getting funding right now, whether it's Nigeria with the Flutterwave story that we had just about a week ago. Our equity group in Kenya, which is the holding company for Equity Bank, is one big company. And if you have money, you will lend it to this company. So getting Africa Guarantee Fund, about $50 million for onward lending, is one good news. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a great deal. Ali, would you like to contribute or say anything regarding these headlines in the eastern part of Africa?
Yes, I think that Bosom is totally right on his approach. In fact, you know, in North Africa, it's a little bit different in terms of tourism. You know, we can say 3 countries remains a lot on tourism. So it's Morocco, Tunisia, and Egypt. So it has been really, really tough for them for this timing. You know, this last, we can say, month, it has been really, really tough. It has damaged their balance. It has damaged a lot of things, in fact, in North Africa. They want to, we can say, to change, we can say, the thing, they want to increase the tourism and all this, but it will not depend on them. So I think that perhaps they need to explore also some, or we can say, intra-regional or continental market. In fact, we have a few Africans coming for tourism in this kind of country, in North Africa. So they need to develop this kind of stuff. So this is one of the main points we can say on tourism in North Africa.
It's a great deal.
To come back on, we can say, sustainable energy, I think it's a big challenge in North Africa, because I think the issue is twofold. On one hand, North Africa depends, especially for Libya, Algeria, and Egypt, they depend a lot on, we can say, traditional energy, so mostly oil and gas. So when they see this kind of, we can say, competitors on, we can say, green energy, it's a big issue for them, because it means that they cannot really develop their own resources. But we can say that North Africa had a big, we can say, opportunity in terms of solar energy. You have, we can say, the Sahara Desert is huge and all this kind of stuff. So it's really huge. So they have an opportunity on this, and they can develop, we can say, some partnership with Europe, because Europe also is, we can say, is going through green energy and through this opportunity. But the thing, I would say, the main aspect of the green energy is the price of the oil and gas. Since the oil and gas price is low, the green energy will not really develop in this country. We will not see a big investment in this new energy. So they will just, we can say, if we can say the oil and gas is still at this level, it will not, we can say, increase the green energy, in fact. So there will be no investment in green energy.
Okay. That's a challenge that countries are going to be combating, actually. Let's move on to the Western African headlines now, where you've got still on the AfDB, the African Development Bank's forecast. Africa's economy is expected to grow at 3.4% after some 2.1% contraction in 2021. Africa also still needs need for a comprehensive global plan to deal with Africa's mounting debt. That's something that AfDB is actually sounding as a warning to our governments now. Nigeria's fourth quarter unemployment and underemployment report today, expected by 4 p.m. Nigeria's February inflation data out tomorrow as well, March the 16th. And you've got Nestle, South Africa, buying some over 562,000 units of shares in Nigeria's subsidiary for 1.374 million naira. And you've got Burkina Faso, the Bank of Africa in that country, announcing some 17.61 billion CFA in profit after tax for the year 2020. That's some kind of a bottom line number there. Onyeka, let me come to you with this headlines, beginning with the FDB forecast for Africa, and of course the warning being pushed there that there's need for some comprehensive global plan to deal with the rising debt level. You've also got a couple of corporate headlines there in the Nigerian capital markets. I mean, how are you dealing with all of these at Vetiver Capital Management?
Temporary. Thanks for the question. I would say that on the AfDB headlines, the 3.4% growth forecast for SSA, we largely expected a recovery in 2021, largely because of the low base from 2020. We saw that 2020 was a largely challenging year across most African economies. Across the sub-Saharan African space, we saw the debt profiles of many companies deepen, and basically we saw the entire economy contract about 2.5%, which is the estimate of the AfDB. But this 3.4% growth forecast, it would be positive. If not that, we also estimate that population growth would exceed this 3.4%. And so on the average, even though the entire economy is expected to come out of recession, the entire subcontinent is expected to come out of recession, citizens and the population is still going to go poorer in this space of time. The AfDB generally estimates about another 30 to 40 million people would fall below the poverty line in 2021. a little down from around 40 to 50 million people that they estimated fell below the poverty line in 2020, but still high, and almost taking us up to almost 50% of the entire population, of the entire African population, below the poverty line, which is still not a great thing. And that takes us down to the second point about the mounting debt, debt profiles of African economies, and the need for a comprehensive plan to deal with this. Economic theory suggests that investment in infrastructure, investment in heavy capital expenditure has one of the largest multiplier effects to income for citizens across the country, and we are seeing a lot of African countries adopt this approach. We are seeing a lot of African governments, put forward, ambitious plans for infrastructure development. In Nigeria, for example, civil transport infrastructure and power infrastructure has been like the crux, and healthcare infrastructure has been like the crux of the federal government spending plans in 2020 and 2021. We expect them to continue that in foreseeable future. South Africa has been their current budget proposal is expected to see them, push for more, infrastructure spend, in the country. We're basically seeing that ricochet across the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. But all of this is expensive. Capital expenditure is expensive, and this increases the debt profile. A debt profile for many African countries that many African countries are already struggling to deal with at the moment. And so it is the AfDB rightly is worried about this, and the AfDB president Ncube Additional mentioned that this might be the time for the final debt relief to Africa. Where you see where you see private loans and concessionary loans being waived off for some African countries that might not be able to deal with it. And yes, it is a good sentiment. It is a little scary, especially for the private investors, especially for the concessionary, for the multilateral investors who have pushed money into these economies. But it is definitely a conversation that we need to have. However, I do hope that this funding comes with a lot more austerity. Maybe austerity measures is not the right word, but a lot more conditions to ensure that we don't find ourselves in this position again. And then just to touch on the unemployment and the inflation numbers. For the inflation, we're generally expecting the 17.1% inflation number in February here at Betiva Capital, and this is a 60 basis points increase from 16.5% in January, largely going to be fueled by increases in food inflation and core inflation. We've all noted the rising cost of energy tariffs and fuel prices in Nigeria, basically having a ripple effects into other sectors of the economy. And in terms of food inflation, while we generally expect the reopening of the border to sort of quell that in the near term, at the moment we are still seeing significant pressure on food prices. Earlier this month we had the north-south issue, which saw food prices in the south spiral significantly, and while food prices in the north dropped significantly, and we expect that to also have an effect on the inflation forecast. In terms of unemployment, we recall that the last figure that we had was the Q2 20 figure, and that was we saw an almost 400 basis points rise from 2017 to Q2 20, which actually shocked many economists because we had expected a much larger jump, especially due to the impact of the pandemic. But as at Q2 20, we believe that the unemployment, we believe that there hadn't been enough time for us to assess the impact of the pandemic on the unemployment on the labor force in the country, and we expect that by the time we see the Q3 20 numbers and Q4 20 numbers, we'll see even higher unemployment figures. That's not to say that we expect that this this trajectory will continue on forever, because we expect that as the economy continues to open up, we should see labor numbers climb up in 2021.
Thank you for these wonderful analysis, Onyeka. Thanks a great deal. Also, any comments before we move on to the Southern African space?
Yeah, I think Onyeka has put it in the right perspective. So I think I will agree with him but the jobs data is the devil is in the details. So let's wait until tomorrow. Let's wait till 4 p.m. today. Tomorrow is election, by the way. So let's deal with the jobs data today. Perhaps we're likely going to see more increase in underemployment rather than unemployment figure, whichever way we're looking at it. Underemployment in an environment such as this is not better news, even if it goes down, than unemployment. I think they are just both sides of the same coin. You can't spend a coin that has the same side. So whether it is underemployment or unemployment in totality, look, folks, the economy is shrinking. That's the truth. Let's be honest. Nigerian economy is shrinking. The level of productivity is getting low. The investments is not coming in from within and from outside. The increase in the level of portfolio investment is not translating into jobs. That's it. So you have local investors, PFAs, mutual funds, folks are investing in financial assets. They're not investing massively in brick and mortar economy that can create real jobs. And that is where the problem really is. But let's leave all of that here. Right. I think we'll have a whole time tomorrow to deal with it.
Absolutely, when we can show that better. So moving on to the Southern African headlines now, you've got with AfDB, resource-intensive economy to grow 3.1% in 2021 versus 4.7% decline. And of course, Sport says Lacasa's approach to spectrum auction was unlawful. Aspen plans to supply some Johnson & Johnson virus vaccines for South Africa before June this year. You also have higher fruits, veggies prices pushing Mozambique inflation down to or higher rather to 5.10% in February 2021. Zimbabwe's economy shows signs of recovering after some 3-year reforms, says Ncube, that's the vice president of the AfDB. Also, let me come to you with the headlines quickly as well.
Okay, just a quick one there. Ncube, the finance minister of Zimbabwe, has always been very aggressive about talking up the economy. I love the gentleman because he's always giving a positive story. Zimbabwe has done 3 years of economic recovery since the passing of Robert Mugabe, and part of this seems to be working. Let's give them that credit. They've been able to compress inflation from about 700, almost 800, to about 300, 400, thereabout inflation. They rolled out a new currency of their own Zimbabwean dollar. They rolled out a new foreign exchange option on a daily basis. The Zimbabwean dollar against the US dollars lost about, I think, 20% or 25% since year to date. But that option seems to be working one way or the other. So to a large extent, it looks like they can move on and try to get things better on one hand. There's Mozambique inflation because of foods and veggies. I think it speaks to Nigeria's story about food inflation as well being a major contributor to the uptick in the headline inflation, as it were. I think that's generally across Africa, except for countries like Egypt. I don't know how they're getting it right. Egypt's inflation, I think, is just about 0.1% higher. Those folks they are just a magician. I don't know what the pharaohs are doing, but I think they got it. I think that's the magic wand of the Egyptians seem to be working. For Icasa, Icasa is running into some issues over the spectrum licensing, a little bit like MTN as well in South Africa, because the authorities are saying they can't be part of it. And they went to court and said, look, we don't like what the regulator was doing, and now it looks like that case has been thrown out. I'm not sure we've heard the last of it when it comes to this spectrum licensing in South Africa that Icasa and I think one or two others are also contesting, by the way. In terms of resource-rich intensive countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, the rest of them, AfDB jury is out in terms of the forecast. Gold prices have been up, platinum is up, silver has been up, copper prices have been up, aluminum had been red hot this year from last year. So let's hope this economic recovery from the developed economies like South Korea, Japan, China, all the way to USA will help these countries within the Southern African space that are rich in resource. Ghana is a little bit of that as well. Let's hope they'll be able to move on out of the pandemic period, and this new growth trajectory will continue as forecast by the AfDB.
Appreciate all of these both. And any comments? Oyeka, do you have any contributions on these headlines?
I guess the key one I'll talk about is on the South African market and the AfDB growth forecast for South Africa, which is expecting the economy to grow by 3% versus an expected 4.7% decline in 2020. We've seen lots of numbers being bandied around for South Africa. We saw one from the ratings agency a few weeks ago. We've seen from the IMF and the World Bank. And a lot of them, I think the key agreement between all of them is that a lot is going to be down to these reform policies being pushed by the government, and a lot is going to be down to the budget execution, budget planning processes and the execution in South Africa. I think that South Africa is definitely heading towards the right path because a lot of their rhetoric has been towards pushing for the growth of infrastructure projects in the country, and we expect that will have a strong multiplier effect in improving income in the country. However, they do need to fix some of the gaping issues with Eskom, with South African Airways, whether in the form of concessioning to the private sector, and the form of just a strong regulatory overhaul to improve these ailing institutions.
Let's finalize the show now with the Northern African headlines, and here we'll be getting at least a girl to help us do justice to all of these headlines here. They are almost all corporates, and Morocco, the budget deficit reached some 12.6 billion dirhams in February 2021. LafargeHolcim profits down some 12% to 1.17 million dirhams in 2020. That's LafargeHolcim in Morocco, the northern part of Africa as well. And of course, Libya, the national oil company there, awards contracts to Saipem to build oil technical center. And Tunisia leasing and factoring company raises some 40 million dinars via bond issue. We need your understanding on these headlines, Ali, before we finalize or close the show.
Yes, Morocco, we can say it's not a surprise, to see, we can say these two events, Morocco suffered a lot from COVID-19, especially in terms of, we can say, of foreign currency coming to the country due to tourism, we can say, weaknesses, to a lot of things, in fact. So we can say that COVID-19 is has a big impact on Morocco. Morocco don't export a lot of things, and mostly we can say the foreign currency reserve are made from, we can say, remittances from Moroccan outside and from tourism. Tourism suffered a lot. I think less than 50% of the total tourism income has come for 2020. So we can say that the deficit of the budget deficit of Morocco can be explained by the COVID-19. After in 2021, we can say the African, the AfDB expect 4.5, we can say, growth for Morocco. So it will not be enough to cover 2020, but it will be better than 2020. So this is the first, we can say, news for Morocco. For Libya, we can say it's a really good news to see this, we can say, signature between NOC, National Oil Company, and we can say this Italian firm. First of all, because it means that Libya is more and more stable, we can say, in terms of politics. So there is a new government in Libya, so it's really good for Libya. And you know that Libya, we can say, the Libyan income are coming also mostly from oil. So to see that oil is coming in and it will be a little bit like before, it's a good news for Libya. And you can say that Libya, we can say NOC has also a lot of impacts for the neighboring country, like for Egypt and Tunisia, because Libya, Tunisia and Egypt had before the event of the Arab Spring, had a lot of workers working in Libya, mostly in the oil fields and the banking sectors and all these kind of things. So to see the stability in Libya is a good news also for Tunisia and for Egypt. It's not that good news for Algeria, because Algeria is the main competitors in terms of oil export to Europe. So it's not a good news for Algeria, but it's a good news also for security for Algeria, because there is a big border between Libya and Algeria.
All right, and Ali, thank you so much for that. Bosun, any additions to this?
I think I give it to Ali when it comes to the North African space. The whole budget deficit across the sovereigns in Africa is no brainer for last year, considering how tough the environment were. You saw Nigeria's trade deficit numbers a week ago. 7.38 trillion naira is just a whole, cut it off and whole. But again, we all try to put that behind us and move forward.
Appreciate that. Thanks a great deal, gentlemen, for your analysis on the show this morning. This has been really impactful and wonderful, and let's hope that shapes investment decision for our viewers for this week and all through to the end of the 5 trading sessions. Thank you, Onyeka Ijeoma, industrial goods analyst at AfDB Capital Management, Ali Segar of Segar Associates, based in Dubai. Thanks a great deal for your insights on the show. Bosun Amofaya, executive editor here at Frontier Africa Reports. I appreciate your insights as well. I'm Temple Ashaji. This has been our first edition of the show, Frontier opening bell for this week. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.